A very good morning, children. I hope you are doing well. Today, I'm here with a very interesting story written by Washington Irving. Do you want to know more about Washington Irving? Washington Irving was born in New York City, and at the age of 19, he started writing letters to the newspaper under the pen name Jonathan Oldstyle. He is best known for his stories like The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle. One of his stories that you are now going to be familiar with is The Adventure of the Mason. Children, this story unfolds the adventure of the Mason. Who is a mason, children? Yes, a person who is skilled at building things with stone or brick or concrete material. So, the story deals with a poor mason who becomes rich overnight. Do you want to know how he came across a large amount of money and became wealthy? Let us read the story together and explore the events of his life. So as you could see it on the screen, here is the first paragraph. So now please concentrate and pay attention. Once upon a time, there was a poor mason in Granada who could scarcely earn bread for his large family. So, there was once upon a time a poor mason in Granada. Granada is a city in Spain. And he could scarcely earn bread. Scarcely, that is, he could hardly earn bread for his large family. One night, he was roused from his sleep by a knocking at his door. So, one night he was woken up by a loud knocking at his door. He opened it and saw before him a tall, thin, cadaverous looking person. So, as he opened the door, he found himself face to face with a cadaverous looking person. Can you describe this cadaverous looking person? He was tall and thin. And what do you mean by cadaverous? A very thin, pale, sickly, bony person. Alright? So this person was so thin that his bones can be easily seen. Or this person was so thin that his bones were easily visible. "Hark ye, honest friend," said the stranger. So the stranger greeted this mason, the poor mason. He said, "Hark ye, listen you, honest friend. I have observed that you are one to be trusted. Will you undertake a job this very night?" So he says to him, "I have observed that you are one to be trusted, that you can be trusted with any work. So are you ready to undertake a job?" "With all my heart, Senor, on condition that I am paid accordingly." Now, he says, he of course agrees to do the work. He says, "With all my heart," that is, I will do it gladly, sir. Senior over here means, senior is actually a Spanish form to address to a person. Like in French, you have learnt monsieur, or in English, we say Mr., right? Similarly, in Spanish, we say senor. Alright, so it is the Spanish form of addressing a man. Alright, like Mr. or Sir in English, or Monsieur in French. Similarly, he addressed him as, the mason addressed this person as Senor. Alright, so he said, Yes, I will do it gladly, but on condition that I am paid accordingly, that I am reasonably paid. So, of course, the mason agreed to work for the stranger on the condition that he should be paid accordingly. That you shall be, but you must suffer yourself to be blindfolded. So, of course, the stranger replied to the mason that, of course, you will be well paid, but you must agree to be blindfolded. So, when, of course, the mason puts the condition that he should be paid reasonably or paid according to the work, then this stranger said that, of course, don't worry, you will be paid, you will be well paid, but for that, you must agree to be blindfolded. That is, he has to, the strange person or the stranger would, of course, blindfold the mason. All right? Okay. All right, children. Now, to this, the mason made no objection. That is, of course, he agreed to the terms of the stranger. He said no to him. Instead, he agreed that he is willing to be blindfolded. So, being blindfolded, he was led by the stranger through various rough lanes and winding passages until they stopped before the portal of a house. So now, of course, the mason was blindfolded by this stranger, and he was led, that is, he was guided by the stranger through various lanes and winding passages. Winding, that is, twists and turns. There were various twists and turns, all right, before they had actually reached to the destination. And when they have reached their destination, they actually stopped before the portal. Portal, that is a doorway or maybe the gate of a house. The stranger then applied a key, turned a creaking lock, and opened what sounded like a ponderous door. Now, before the portal of a house, before they were, standing before the door or the gate or the entrance of the house, the stranger applied a key into the lock of the gate or maybe the lock of the door. And of course, while he was doing so, it gave a or it made a creaking sound. And then he opened the door, and it sounded as if it was a really heavy door which was being opened. All right, ponderous over here means what? Heavy. They entered, the door was closed and bolted. Now, when they have entered inside, of course, the stranger closed and bolted, that is, he locked the gate again. And the mason was conducted through an echoing corridor and a spacious hall to an interior part of the building. And then when they have entered inside and locked the door, then the mason was conducted, he was led by through an echoing corridor and a spacious hall, spacious, large, open, hall which had, ample of space in it. And then he led him to an interior part of the building, to an inner, side or maybe an inner part of the building. So that is why you can, come to a conclusion that maybe that was why the stranger had blindfolded the mason. Why? Because he did not want him to find the way to this inner or to this interior part of the building or to this secretive part of the building, right? Here, the bandage was removed from his eyes, and he found himself in a court dimly lighted by a single lamp. So now, if you remember, he was blindfolded. The mason was blindfolded, right? Maybe he used a cloth or a bandage for it. So when they had reached to the interior part of this building, the bandage was removed from his eyes, all right? So now, when the bandage was removed from the mason's eyes, he found himself in a court which was dimly lighted, that it was not brightly lit, rather it was light or maybe dim by a single lamp. And in the center, he found a dry basin of an old Moorish fountain, and this courtyard was located in the interior part of the building, right? Okay, so in the center was a dry basin of an old Moorish fountain. Moorish over here is related to the Islamic style of architecture, or designing. It belongs to a style of Spanish architecture from the time of the Moors, when they had ruled in Spain during 8th to 16th century, right? Under which the stranger requested him to form a small vault, bricks and mortar being at hand for the purpose. Now, of course, he had led him to the actual place where he wanted him to be, and now the stranger asked the mason, or requested the mason, to build a small vault. What is a vault? It is actually a large room or chamber used for storage, all right, especially an underground, you can say a large room or chamber where valuables can be stored. And of course, the things that were required to build this underground room, this vault, were bricks and mortar. So everything was at hand for him, for the mason. He worked all night but without finishing the job. Of course, the mason worked throughout the night, but as being a single labor, it was not possible for him to finish the job in one single night. Just before daybreak, that is just before the sun rose, the stranger put a piece of gold into his hand, and having again blindfolded him, conducted him back to his dwelling. So of course, before the daybreak, the stranger paid him, and what did he give him? A piece of gold in his hand, and he again blindfolded him, led him back through the all those rough lanes, all right, and again he led him back to his dwelling. That is where the place, the residing place or the living place of the mason, all right. Okay, again I'm just giving the entire gist of this para. After covering the eyes of the mason, the stranger led him down through various rough lanes and twists and turns in the passages, right, until they reached a doorway. So this stranger unlocked the door, they entered, and he locked the door behind them, led the mason to a large hall. He removed the blindfold or the bandage from the mason's eyes and took him through to a courtyard. And what was in the courtyard? A dry basin of an old Moorish fountain, under which the stranger asked the mason to build or to form a small vault. So he accordingly worked all night, and just before daybreak, just before dawn, the stranger put a piece of gold into his hand and blindfolded him again or once more, and led the mason back to his home. Moving on to the next incident or event, you can say. "Are you willing," said he, "to return and complete your work?" "Gladly, Signor, provided I am so well paid." "Well, then, tomorrow at midnight, I will call again." He did so, and the vault was completed. Now, of course, when that is over here, the stranger led him back to his home, he asked him before parting his way, that was he willing to return to complete the work, to which the mason replied that of course he'll be happily doing it. It would be a pleasure for him. He would do the work, he would complete the work merrily, but on the condition that he should be well paid. So to this he replied that of course he would call for him again tomorrow at midnight. And he did so, that is, the stranger did call him as he promised, and the work was finished by the mason. So, did you find the story interesting? Of course, I know, but we'll continue with this story in our next turn and learn about some more adventures of the Mason's life. Till then, read the story with proper voice modulation and don't forget to learn and write the underlined or the already marked words twice in your notebooks. Stay safe, children. Thank you.